The smell of ozone was the first thing that hit me. Not the clean post-rain scent, but the sharp electric tang of something burned, something broken. I was walking out of my lawyer's office, the contract ripped up in my hands, a pile of confetti for a party no one was invited to. My business, my life's work, gone. And I felt a joy so profound, it was almost terrifying. For 13 years, I'd been chasing ghosts. The ghost of a family I lost at 19, the ghost of a perfect life I was supposed to build for them. For me, I'd poured every ounce of grief, every ounce of rage into building a perfume empire, a monument to a life that had to matter. It worked. The money was there, the store was a success, but the happiness, that was just another scent I couldn't bottle. It wasn't there. My ex, Daniel, saw that emptiness and filled it with someone else. My friends saw my success and it turned them green. I was an island, a very profitable, very lonely island. And then, one morning, I woke up and the scent of my own success was suffocating. I couldn't stand the smell of my own creation. So I walked away, signed the papers to dissolve the company, left behind the spreadsheets, the meetings, the endless grind. I knew what it meant. $14,000 in debt to the government. The number was a chain, but for the first time, it felt light. A fair price for my freedom. For the first time, I felt I was finally standing on my own 2 feet, not on the grave of my past. The new feeling was a thrill. An idea had been bubbling inside me for the past 2 years, something I had been doing on the side, a new path I hadn't dared to follow. It was to lead a new retreat just outside of Boston, not about business, not about success, but about feeling, about sensing the world around you in a different way. I had already poured so much of my heart into this quiet passion, but now it would be my entire focus. The world was telling me I made a huge mistake, that I was crazy. But for the first time since that car crash, I was ready to finally start living. The scent of ozone from the ripped contract was a promise of a new beginning, a new journey. The first week was a haze of freedom. I went home and didn't check a single email. Didn't answer the phone when the lawyers called about the debt. I just sat on my couch, smelling the new scent of my apartment, dust and old coffee, and it was better than any perfume I had ever created. I started planning the retreat, thinking about the new beginning I was building. I found a secluded house on the outskirts of Boston, a place surrounded by woods with a small lake nearby. It was perfect. But the phone calls started getting more insistent. One afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. It was my ex-boyfriend, Daniel. I hadn't spoken to him since I walked out on him a month ago, a quiet end to a 2-year relationship. He sounded different, not angry, not defensive, just tired. He wanted to talk. He said he had something important to tell me. I told him I didn't care what he had to say, and I hung up. A few hours later, he called back, and this time he left a message. "Stephanie, please, it's not what you think. I need to explain everything. I did something terrible, but it was for you." That last sentence stayed with me. It was for you. It made no sense. What could he have done that was for me? The next day, I got a text from one of my ex-friends, Sarah. A short, sharp message. How could you? How could you do that to Daniel? I was completely lost. They were my world for so long, and now they seemed to be part of some secret I was excluded from. That night, another text from Sarah came in. "You think you're so smart, Stephanie, so much better than all of us, but you have no idea what he did to protect you. No idea at all." The words felt like a punch to the gut. What was going on? The joy I had felt just a few days ago started to fade, replaced by a cold knot of dread in my stomach. I called Sarah, but she didn't answer. She wouldn't take my calls after that. I tried to push it all out of my mind and focus on the retreat, on my new life, but every day the words, "He did it for you," echoed in my head, getting louder and louder. Then a letter arrived in the mail. It was a formal-looking envelope, not from a law firm, but from a bank. It was addressed to me, but the sender's name was Daniel.
I ripped it open. Inside, there was a single laminated statement. I looked at the numbers and the breath caught in my throat. It was a wire transfer confirmation. A transfer of $14,000 from an anonymous account straight into my business account. The debt I owed was gone. The date on the transfer was the very day after I'd found out Daniel had cheated on me. I looked at the statement and everything went black. The feeling wasn't freedom anymore. It was a trap. My hands trembled as I stared at the wire transfer confirmation. The debt was gone. He had paid it. The man who had cheated on me, the one I had left behind, had paid for my freedom. But the freedom I had been celebrating for weeks suddenly tasted like ash. It wasn't mine anymore. It belonged to him. It was a golden cage, a gilded chain he had wrapped around me without me even knowing. I drove to his apartment, the letter clutched so tightly in my hand, the paper was getting soft. I had to know. I had to understand why. He opened the door, and the look of his face wasn't of surprise, but of resignation. He just let me in. The apartment smelled the same, a mix of old books and his cologne, a scent that used to be home but now felt foreign. I asked him why, my voice barely a whisper. I held up the paper. He ran a hand through his hair, his eyes tired. He didn't look like the man I knew. He had to, he said, sitting down on the couch. You were falling apart, Stephanie. You were so wrapped up in that business, in the ghosts you were chasing. You couldn't see anything else. Not me, not your friends, nothing. I scoffed. So you cheated on me to help me? The words were dripping with venom. He looked at me and his eyes were full of a pain that was a mirror of my own. No, he said, that was an accident, a terrible mistake. But when you left, you looked so happy, so free. I realized what I had done to you. The debt, it was the only thing holding you back. I knew you'd never take money from me. So I did it anonymously, through an offshore account. I wanted you to have a chance at a real life, the life you deserved. My mind reeled. He hadn't done it to control me. He had done it to set me free. He had used his betrayal as a weapon against my self-destruction, but he had never intended for me to find out. He didn't tell me, he continued, because I knew it would make you feel trapped. But Sarah, she found out. We had a huge fight about it. She thought I was using it to manipulate you, and I suppose in a way she was right. She just didn't understand the whole story. I never meant for you to know, not like this. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. My ex-boyfriend, the one I had left for his betrayal, had made a sacrifice that had given me my freedom. My best friend, the one I had alienated, had tried to protect me. But in the end, her misguided words had led me to the truth, a truth that felt like a lie. He looked at me with a quiet plea. You have your freedom now, Stephanie. It's yours. What are you going to do with it? I looked at him, then at the paper in my hand. He was right. The debt was gone, the money was paid, the business was closed. I was free to start my retreat, free to build the life I wanted. But now it was no longer a symbol of my strength. It was a monument to his sacrifice. The moral dilemma was a sharp, bitter taste in my mouth. My freedom had been bought with his pain. I had the life I wanted, but was it truly mine to claim? Could I accept a gift born from a lie, a betrayal, and a deep, agonizing love? The answer wasn't clear. The path forward was tangled, a web of deceit and noble intentions. I had to choose. Do I reject the gift and start from scratch, to feel the pain of the debt but own my future? Or do I accept his sacrifice, embrace this new life, and carry the weight of what he had done for me forever? I stood there in the silence of his apartment, the weight of the choice, a silent scream in my chest. The scent of ozone was gone, replaced by a new, more complex fragrance, the unsettling, deeply human perfume of consequences.